Okay, everything's running whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Town of Newcastle's first inaugural meeting of the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Committee, also known as PRRCC. I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to give everyone the opportunity to briefly introduce themselves and discuss what we're going to do moving forward, and then open up the floor to anyone who wants to share any comments or has any ideas that they want to give and speak about. So to start things off, the governor has charged local municipalities, including the town of Newcastle, with a police agency to perform a comprehensive review of current police force deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices, and to create a plan to adopt and implement the recommendations resulting from its review by April 1st of 2021. The town of Newcastle's Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Committee was created by a resolution in the town of Newcastle on October 20th of this past year. And again, this is our first meeting. This initial public forum is not necessarily for us to engage back and forth. It's a listening session and allows anyone who wants to either send an email in, who can't make it tonight or is here this evening, to comment on what police reform means to them in this community. Everyone's going to be allotted 3 minutes to speak, so kindly, if you can, please try to keep it within that time frame. That email is policereform@mynewcastle.org. According to the governor, and I'm taking just a little bit out, I'm not going to read all of his comments, but this is important and I wanted to share. Many communities all across the country are dealing with issues concerning their police departments. The millions of people who gathered in protest, even in the midst of public health crisis, made that clear. The situation is unsustainable for all. Maintaining public safety is imperative. It is one of the essential roles of government. In order to achieve that goal, there must be mutual trust and respect between police and the communities they serve. The success and safety of our society depends on restoring and strengthening mutual trust. With crime growing in many cities, we must seize this moment of crisis and turn it into an opportunity for transformation. And again, that's why we're here with this committee. And what's critical here, it's collaborative. And as the governor pointed out, collaborative is a key word. And it would be a mistake to frame these discussions as an adversarial process or an effort to impose top-down solutions. Issues must be aired out, but solutions must be crafted. The collaborative process should include reviewing the needs of the community served by its police agency and evaluate the department's current police policies and practices, establish policies that allow police to effectively and safely perform their duties, involve the entire community in the discussion, develop policy recommendations resulting from this review, offer a plan for public comment, present the plan to the local legislative body to ratify or adopt, and certify adoption of the plan to the state budget director on or before, again, April 1st of this coming year. So that's what we want to discuss today. And I'll let everyone know that we have meetings set up if you haven't seen it. Obviously tonight from 6 to 8 p.m. and that's what it's going to be going forward. Also November 12th, 19th, December 3rd and 17th, and January 2nd and 30th. Again, 6 to 8 p.m. and we can provide more information as those come forward. Last but not least, I want to take a moment to introduce everyone. Very briefly, I'm Jeremy Saland. I'm the Deputy Town Supervisor. I'm a former local municipal prosecutor, a former Manhattan prosecutor, and I work professionally in criminal law as a criminal attorney, doing family law and Title IX law. So this is something that I'm familiar with as well. Going forward, I want to introduce some other folks. If you can take 30 seconds just to say a little bit about yourself. From our CRE that's here in Newcastle, Hermione Charles, I believe, is with us tonight. If she could just unmute herself and share.
Hello, my name is Hermione Charles. I am a 10-year resident of Newcastle. I represent I am the team leader of the Community Partnerships team on the Council of Race and Equity in Newcastle. I'm very pleased to be here and look forward to helping craft this dialogue going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. From our Interfaith Council, Reverend Martha Jacobs, please.
Yes, good evening. I'm the senior minister at First Congregational Church in Chappaqua, and I am coming up to almost 8 years in this community. It's moved very quickly, and a lot of times goes very slowly at other times. And I'm also the chaplain for the Newcastle Police Department, which I'm very honored to serve in that position. And I am looking forward to, I think, some vigorous dialogue around some of the work perhaps that needs to be done, not just in this community, but in the wider community as well.
Thank you, Reverend Jacobs. From the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, Frank Luis.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Luis. I'm a local prosecutor. I've been with the Westchester DA's office now for almost 27 years, and I'm currently assigned to be the supervisor of the branch office that covers the town of Newcastle, and I'm pleased to be here to help.
Thank you so much. From the Legal Aid Society, Harvey Loeb.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, I'm Harvey Loeb. I'm Deputy Chief Counsel with the Legal Aid Society of Westchester County. I'm very happy to be on this committee. I am a town of Newcastle resident. I've lived here in the North End for 26 years, and I'm anxious to move forward with my fellow committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. From the Chappaqua Central School District, Superintendent Christine Ackerman.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you tonight here with the town of Newcastle. I'm here to be a part of this process. Thank you, Jim, for inviting me. I've been the superintendent in the school district. This is going on my 4th year, so thank you for having me.
Thank you. From the Children's Aid Society, Vince Canziani.
Yeah, that's right. Good evening, Vince Canziani. I run Wagon Road Camp in Chappaqua. I'm a resident of Chappaqua for 20 years. 3 daughters went through the schools. Background in social work, youth development. Happy to be a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, locally elected official, we have, Deputy Supervisor. Please pardon me. I almost made a big mistake there. I did. Town Supervisor, Ivy Poole.
See what happens when I let you run a meeting?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ivy Poole. I'm the Newcastle Town Supervisor. I'm very excited to be a part of this team. I just wanted to say at the outset that really I am, I think, second to none in this community in terms of my admiration and respect for the Newcastle Police Department, and in particular for our police chief, Jim Carroll. Chief Carroll became chief in 2019, just before I was elected town supervisor. And we've both shared some laughs about the fact that 2020 was not the year that we expected it to be for us to rise up to these leadership roles. I think that there are those who would have been sort of crippled by that, but Chief Carroll has really risen to the occasion. He's led the department with honor and with grace and integrity. And so I'm pleased to get to be a part of this process. And I really think this is, for the town of Newcastle, a continuation of a process that we really launched earlier this year in response to the racist incidents that happened nationwide, but more specifically here in our community. And so Chief Carroll has made himself available at town board meetings. He's made himself available to our Council on Race and Equity. So a lot of that sort of forework is really the foundation that then we've laid for this committee. So I think it's fantastic that we're all coming together and now thinking about how to sort of crystallize our recommendations and think about how to move forward in a productive way. So thank you.
Ivy, I was gonna have to cut you off at 3 minutes. I'm sorry. So we have to introduce the unsinkable Town Administrator, Jill Shapiro.
Thank you. I'm Jill Shapiro. I am a 34-year resident of Newcastle. Boy, I'm hoping my math is off, but I'm thinking it's not. Both of my daughters went through Chappaqua Central School District, raised them here. I've worked for the town for a lot of years as well. And before that, I actually started out in criminal law as well. I have known Chief Carroll for a very long time, and I am a tremendous fan of community policing that I think we do just so well in Newcastle. But regardless of doing things well, there's always room for improvement. And I'm really excited to be part of this process, and excited to have the community's input and see how we can even do better. So thanks for including me.
Thank you. Deputy Town Administrator, Robert Deary.
Hi, good evening. I'm Robert Deary, the Comptroller and Deputy Town Administrator. I have been with the Town of Newcastle for over 13 years now. Over the last few years, I have had the opportunity to work with the Chief and also with Detective Rotolo, who's on the committee, and I look forward to being a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. From our Newcastle Police Department, PBA President, and also, as you just mentioned, Detective Anthony Rotolo.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Like he said, Anthony Rotolo. I've been with Newcastle Police 17 years now. I am presently the detective and the PBA president. Thank you.
Thank you. And certainly last but not least, our chief, who actually I recall being a sergeant when I first started, if I'm not mistaken, who's gone up the ranks and is really an amazing asset to this community, as is Detective Rotolo, just the department in general. Chief Jim or James Carroll.
Hi, everybody. Chief James Carroll here. I've actually just started my 28th year working for the town of Newcastle, so it's been a great run. I asked for a few more seconds than 30 because I just wanted to read our mission statement, talk a little bit about the police department in hopes that might answer some questions that people might have out in the audience. So I'm going to start with that. So department mission, quote, "The mission of the Newcastle Police Department is to serve all people within our jurisdiction with fairness and compassion. We are committed to the prevention of crime and the protection of life and property, the preservation of peace, order, and safety, the enforcement of laws and ordinances, and the safeguarding of constitutional guarantees. With community service as our foundation, we are driven by goals to enhance the quality of life, investigating problems and incidents, seeking solutions, and fostering a sense of security within the community. We nurture public trust by holding ourselves to the highest standards of performance and ethics," end quote. So we strive to carry out that mission in a professional manner, respecting the rights of our citizens without regard to race, color, nationality, creed, gender, or sexual orientation. Our policies and procedures are developed and executed with that goal in mind, and our officers are selected, trained, and supervised to that end. So our department is currently comprised of 38 sworn officers, myself, 2 lieutenants, 1 detective sergeant, 2 detectives, 1 detective/youth officer, 9 patrol sergeants, and 22 police officers. 69% of our officers are white, 18% are black, 13% are Hispanic, and 13% are female. Our patrol force works 24/7, 365 days a year. Our detective division handles criminal investigations. We also employ 17 civilian employees. Full-time employees include 1 senior officer assistant, 1 community service worker, 1 animal warden/park enforcement officer. Part-time employees include 1 officer assistant, 4 park enforcement officers, 2 school guards, and 6 court attendants. Something I'm very proud of is we are also New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services accredited. The accreditation program enables us to strengthen existing procedures while simultaneously creating a solid foundation for the agency's future. The benefit of state accreditation include independent confirmation that policies conform with professional standards, assurance of fair recruitment, selection, and the promotion process, diminished vulnerability to civil lawsuits and costly settlements, enhancing understanding by agency personnel of agency's policies and procedures, greater administrator and operational effectiveness, and greater public confidence. And another thing I'm proud of the 542 police agencies in New York, only 116 are accredited, so approximately 20%. I am proud of our accreditation, but our biggest strength is our officers and their commitment to the community policing and providing service. Those are our foundation and the responsibility of every member of the department. Some of the things we do, we have 5 school resource officers, 1 that's permanently assigned to the high school. We have 7 certified juvenile officers. They're specially trained in laws and procedures of juvenile custody, laws relating to juveniles and applicable case law, juvenile diversion programs, investigative techniques, etc. We have a community resource unit that deals with quality of life issues of town. We have domestic violence unit who follows up with the victims of domestic violence a few days after they first call us. We have a motorcycle unit, a bicycle unit. We provide security surveys to schools, houses of worship, to businesses. We provide traffic studies and surveys to areas of chronic complaints and issues. We provide child seat checks We will provide vacant house checks if somebody goes away on vacation. We check on our senior watches during times of trouble, whether it be an intense heat or a hurricane or a storm. We have an officer specifically designated to work days in the hamlet. We usually do a booth at Community Day. We recently joined CRE at a booth and then made our own booth outside of the farmer's market. We've held coffee with a cop events, and we also have a pharmaceutical drop-off. So that's just an overview of some of the things we do on top of what you think is regular police work. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Chief. And before I continue, I also want to introduce everyone to Tiffany White. She assists Jill Shapiro in running the show in town and here as well. So thank you, Tiffany. And she has a big role tonight. She is the sign holder. We'd like to try to keep it to 3 minutes if you can. We have the stop and go sign. So Tiffany will be running the show. You have to keep your eye on her. So thank you very much, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
With that all being said, why don't we move the ball forward? And we have some emails we can. Chief, did you say you had the emails?
I do, yes.
So if there's something to read, you can. Otherwise, we can start if people want to raise their hands, because again, this is not us debating or having conversations amongst ourselves. This is the community's opportunity to reach out and speak to us and share their concerns, ideas, etc.
If I may, Jeremy, just before we open that up, I actually have the email from the CVAC captain, and I thought I would just read that one into the record, as I thought it was, as I'm a CVAC board member myself, and I thought that this was something I just wanted to make sure we shared. So this came from the CVAC captain, Kate Clough, who writes, hi, I can't make the hearing tonight. I'm not sure what changes are being considered, but I wanted to give some feedback from CVAC based on our experience with the Newcastle Police Department. With the recent reports about police departments in other municipalities, I'm increasingly thankful for the officers that we have in Newcastle. One or more officer is almost always on the scene for 911 medical calls before we arrive. Our officers are remarkably mature and non-confrontational. We respond to dispatches for residents or visitors who are very agitated. The police are always helpful to our crews on these calls. They help to de-escalate many situations, from violent patients to intoxicated patients. They often help us, to lift patients and move them to the ambulance. And they are generally first on the scene to start CPR when necessary. I'm almost always impressed with the police department's handling of people and situations. Thanks.
And Chief, do you want to read some of those that you have in front of you?
Yep. From Laney and Erwin Katzenberg. I admire and respect our town police force. I'm thankful for their service to our community. That was one. Another one from James Eaton. To whom it may concern, I will not be able to attend the forum tonight, but I want to give feedback and offer some general support. I don't know the particulars of what the committee is proposing. I suppose any organization, NCPD included, could benefit from the review, tweaking, and information and informed oversight now and then. That being said, as Newcastle Police resident since 2007, I have always found the police in this town to be responsive, courteous, professional, and effective. I played softball with and against some of the guys, and on occasion have called the department for assistance in minor matters. So I do have a basis for making this observation. Never a problem, always a help is my distinct impression. I compliment the job Chief Carroll and the men and women under him are doing. I would be opposed to any restrictive, punitive, or politically based changes to the funding or function of our police department, and I am more than happy to say that to whoever needs to hear it. You don't fix what isn't broken. All the best, James Eaton.
So I believe that was the only ones we had submitted online. Is that correct? Yeah, looks like it's, yes. All right. So again, with that being said, I open this up to anyone who wants to share their comments, thoughts, concerns, issues. The ball is in your proverbial court. Not seeing any hands.
If anybody's interested in speaking, you can just raise your digital hand.
I see one, Carrie, if we can
Sure.
move.
Josie Ganek, what we're going to try to do is bring people in on video as well as audio. So you might think you're getting disconnected, but just hang in for a second. And Josie, you should be coming up now. Just unmute yourself.
Okay,
Great, we can hear you.
I can't see any of you, but maybe there's some, oh, there we go. Okay, I can't see the group. Oh, there it is, gallery view. How about that? In any case, I'll be quick. And I like a lot of what I heard in those emails. I've been living in this town since 1978. So a lot has gone on since then. We have had in my home one serious medical emergency, and otherwise our need to call the police has been limited. I have never encountered an officer or a member of your police department who hasn't been professional, helpful, friendly, courteous, sympathetic. And I just hope, I think the Reverend Jacob said, you know, we're looking not at us, only us, but at the wider community. We shouldn't fix something that's somebody else's problem. And I don't pretend to know all the issues for the younger people or our residents of color or other issues that the police come. But let's remember this is a political issue. And Andrew Cuomo is getting a lot of political capital for putting this forward. And I don't criticize him for that, but that shouldn't govern the way we decide to go. If we don't need something fixed, I don't think we should come up with something just because the politicians have made this a front, you know, an issue for you know, in the foreground, made this an issue. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate your comments.
I just, you know, to that, I would just, Jeremy, I just want to add that, you know, for anybody who's watching who, you know, maybe hasn't followed this closely, this particular committee and the mission that we're carrying out is one that every municipality in the state is required to take on right now. So, you know, Jeremy said sort of at the top, I would not want anyone to get the impression that we are doing something that is politically motivated or extraordinary in any way. You know, that said, we are taking it seriously and we are using this as an opportunity. And, you know, with the chief and Detective Rotolo's, you know, participation to take the opportunity to take a look at ourselves and think about ways in which we can improve. And so we're excited about that opportunity. But I did just want to, you know, add that what we're doing is what we're mandated to do by this.
I understand that, and I didn't mean to suggest that I thought you were doing this for political or reasons, but I think it's also fair to recognize that there are communities that have problems, big problems, small problems, whatever. I just think we have to keep in mind that no matter what is needed in other communities, we need to focus on what, if anything, is needed in this community. And to remember that the decision to have this was motivated by a lot of real problems, but they may not be in our community. And just because they're somewhere else doesn't mean we have to have a way to respond, and we have to have a very long list to give back to the governor or whomever else is reviewing the things we've done under this mandate. I'm done.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. I understand your position. And this certainly is not an attack on our police department or any department in general. It's an effort mandated by the state to review, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So thank you very much. Reverend Jacob, you had your hand up before. Did you want to say something briefly? Seems that
yeah, I just wanted to clarify what I was said earlier. What I meant is that we can look at what other departments have done, perhaps, and there are things we could possibly improve on. That is all I meant. I didn't mean that we were going to look at the wider world and what, you know, the problems that there are elsewhere, but simply, you know, ways that we might be able to improve on something that's already good. So.
Thank you. Carrie, do you want to move in Terry McQueenie Stern, please?
Sure. Okay, you can unmute yourself, Terry McQueenie Stern.
Yep, there we go. Okay. I can't see you all, but I'm You can hear me, right?
You can see you and hear you.
Okay, great. I have a particular concern for how people with mental health issues, how people on the Asperger's spectrum would be treated. So I just wanted to hear from the police chief how our department handles it. I'm seeking information. I have no agenda.
That's fair, but I think today, unless there's a reason to alter from that, I think today is for you to just share your questions and concerns so we can address them and going forward and identify any issues or implement new programs you think are applicable. So for in this case, how to deal with people who suffer from those mental health issues or Asperger's. So I don't believe we're really gonna have a debate back and forth, but that's something we're going to address.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to know what the police, how do they handle, is there, for example, a program so that if someone has someone with Asperger's in the family, that the police would know that? So if there's any issue, you know, that kind of thing, do we have that going on in Newcastle?
Terry,
if you want to just briefly.
Yes. I don't think we should. Do me a favor, call my office tomorrow and we can make an appointment to discuss it outside of this forum.
Okay.
I'll give you the number, 238-4686.
I know the number. We love you guys, but yeah, okay, thank you.
Happy to discuss it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. McQueenie Stern. Carrie, if we can move in Jackie O'Brien, please.
Sure, Jackie O'Brien, just unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad we can join this forum. I've got my husband and my 23-year-old son here. We are very, very proud of the work that Newcastle Police have done to deal with individuals with autism. My son is known to the department, and when he was very young, that was important to us. He's doing great, so hopefully you haven't had to see him in a while. Anyhow, I wanted to just say that this is very important for any taxpayer to start paying attention to what our police practices are. So whether we're blessed that we don't have some of the issues other towns have, but in order to be responsible citizens, we have to know what our police practicing procedures are. And I was, kind of awoke to that last year. And unfortunately, every year there are ways in which other departments function that are so abhorrent. But I'm very eager to support whatever reforms make sense to improve what might already be good practices. But I also think there's an opportunity for Newcastle to do, because we may have less mired kinds of complex issues, we have the responsibility of creating a department that is sort of, exemplar. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Well, we went on a little bit of a roll there. We had 3. Can we make it 4? No. And I guess that gives us a little bit of an opportunity. Does anyone on the committee want to share anything about themselves or anything that they think is relevant or pressing right now? Not really what we had planned on doing, but otherwise this public forum for people to share is going to come to a quick halt.
I just wanted to share one thing, and that is when Ivy was reading Kate's comment about the de-escalation, we've actually taken advantage of some of the training that the police have gotten. So de-escalation is a big thing, in any office. And we've actually been lucky enough to have Chief Carroll come in and have some of his officers instruct our staff on how to de-escalate situations. People call up, they're aggravated, they're agitated, and how to listen respectfully and how to help address without being condescending and without it being misinterpreted is not necessarily intuitive. And we really appreciate the fact that in addition to the active shooter training that we've had, the de-escalation has been really, really helpful to us, and first aid and all that other good stuff that, that the the officers in the department have been able to share with us. But I think our staff really feels well prepared due to that training, and we're tremendously appreciative of the time and the effort that you give to us. So thanks.
I'll second that.
I just, as I was sort of scrolling through my emails just now, I saw that there were a couple questions that actually just came through to our police reform address. So I just wanted to read those for everybody. And then, if we can just kind of take note of these and add them to the list of issues that we're going to be looking at and addressing. So the questions are, what is the process for police report completion? So I think, how do you complete a police report? What is the protocol for door knocks? And what is the protocol for call-in processing?
All right. Chief, did you take yourself on mute? Did you want to briefly answer that since we have a moment?
You know what? I'll just answer them individually. I think we should stick with the format tonight that, it's a listening session.
I'm hesitant to shut us down so soon at 6:36 when we had this open till 8 o'clock. It just, oh, great. We have another hand up. That's a win. If you can move Lorraine Pantaleo in, please, Carrie.
Hang on.
Thank you.
Where did she go? Hi, Lorraine Pantaleo. Just unmute yourself and we should be able to hear you.
Lorraine, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, I don't know if this is an issue of the video thing. I'm gonna just go back and open the phone line, see if that helps.
Okay.
Okay, Lorraine, you're back. Just unmute yourself, see if this helps.
Okay, anyway, something Jill said reminded me. When I was in my 40s in law school, I and a social worker did programs for police departments in Westchester about de-escalating, about stopping something before it gets to the point where you have to arrest people. And I was really proud of our department because you were so much more receptive to everything than some of the other police departments. So I just wanted to make that comment. I think being able to stop something before it gets out of hand is really important. And I've been here since 1968, so I've been around a long time.
Thank you, Lorraine. Yeah, I think you've won. You're the longest at anyone so far, so you have the crown right now.
Yeah, I think everybody knows me now.
If anyone is having difficulty raising their hand, they can also type into the chat box.
Again, there's no bad question, there's no bad comment, so please feel free to share. This will certainly help the town and law enforcement and all of us to figure out how to make sure that we're in the best place going forward.
Jerry, I just want to clarify. I think our next 3 meetings are just stakeholder meetings. So it will just be the committee itself. And then in December, we'll start again with the public forum.
Thank you, Chief. Well, we will be recording those.
Yes.
They will be shared. As much as I want people to stare at us and not say anything, I really don't want to end it great. Jackie O'Brien, you're the next contestant. Come on down. Carrie, if you can move Jackie back in, please.
Okay, Jackie, just unmute yourself. There you go.
Thanks. So I'm sorry that I missed the very beginning of the meeting, but can you just describe maybe for the rest of us what the process is and what the objectives are and what you anticipate, just sort of broadly speaking, of course, because I have no idea, sort of what the mandated, the plan is. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Did I take myself off mute? I did. Okay. So the purpose of this, it was created by an executive order by the governor, and the governor is concerned about violence and the interaction with law enforcement in terms of what's going on in the past and how do we deal with it going forward. So what the governor has asked, I shouldn't say asked, but the governor has required is that all municipalities that have a police force or police agency to do a review that's very thorough and comprehensive. The goal of that is to analyze a few different areas. So for example, how we deploy our police, what are the type of strategies we follow, what are our procedures here, and how we can look at and examine those procedures. What do people in the community see, and what should we deal with that, or how do we deal with that to implement the best plan for this municipality and our police force going forward. So it's pretty wide in terms of its scope. And then by April 1st of 2021, we need to have that submitted to the state. So ultimately, what's going to happen is we are going to take the considerations that people share. We're going to talk internally, and that's why we have people from the Legal Aid, the Children's Aid Society, prosecutors from the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, and then people who have different experiences, someone from the CRE, local leaders, local legislators. All of us come from a different place and have different experiences to put this all together and find out how do we implement and be collaborative in doing so, to make sure that we have the right safety mechanism put in place. How do we make sure that whatever we're doing now in terms of a police department is the right way? Maybe we're doing things because it may not be broken, but it's not the right way to do it. Alternatively, we may have been doing something wrong from the beginning, or we may be doing something quite well, and we can enhance that or just maintain it. So it's ultimately going to be put before the town board, whatever the recommendations are, and then the town board is going to ratify it or vote on it or put it together and then submit that to the state. So I don't know if that was a lot of words for a little bit, but it's sort of an avenue for us to examine our policing policies, but in a much broader scope, and correct what needs to be corrected, see what really works, and create a plan. Did that answer your questions? Was that too rambly mumbly, as I often like to do?
No, thank you very much. That was a great description of the process. As a follow-up question, I would be curious to know, I think many people are unaware of budgetary realities and how resources are allocated, sort of the wish list versus the mandated list, discretionary versus, sort of standard budgeting. So will that be part of the disclosure process for our community to understand some of those realities, so we can not only be knowledgeable about our own town's expenses, but also be more knowledgeable about how other towns make decisions and whether there seems to be, discrepancies?
Right. So I guess as a preliminary matter, all of our budgetary process is open, and we have public forums on that. We have public work sessions, and ultimately we vote on the budget. So you could, when I say you, anyone can, but we can certainly help facilitate that here, can break down what the police budget is and where the monies are going. It's a good conversation in terms of needs and wants. That's something that comes up with regularity, not just with the police department, but across all of our budgeting issues. But that is something to examine. In terms of it comparing to other towns, I don't know if that's being done. It's a good question. I don't have the answer for you if you're asking if we're comparing it to other municipalities. and I would assume that'd be a relevant inquiry, assuming you're comparing apples to apples. So we're not Yonkers, we're not New York City, we're not White Plains. Those are much larger municipalities than we are, and likely have different issues than we do. But that's something certainly to look at, and if we can, I think we should.
If anybody's interested, they can look up online the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. It's a resource and guide provided by the governor, and that covers everything that we'll be looking at.
Yeah, Ivy, did we publish that in a newsletter? I don't know if we linked to it, did we? To the PDF, because
we did not link to the guide. We can in our next newsletter if you'd like to put that in there. We did link in the newsletter to the resolution that the town board passed to adopt this particular committee. And I actually, there's like 10 bullet points here that are the sort of primary tasks of the committee. And so I'll just briefly read those. To review the needs of the community served by its police agency, to evaluate the relevant policies and practices of the department, to identify standards and strategies that foster trust, fairness, transparency, accountability, and legitimacy, to confirm or establish policies that allow police to effectively and safely perform their duties, to involve the entire community in the discussion, to develop policy recommendations resulting from this review, to offer a plan for public comment, to present the plan to the local legislative body to ratify or adopt, and lastly, to certify the adoption of the plan to the state budget director on or before April 1st of 2021. So that's what this committee is charged with.
But the PDF will have even more information that you can dig your teeth into a little bit. So we're happy to share that. Thank you, Jackie. Since our 3-minute rule is not necessary, if you have any other question or comment, feel free to share it now. All right. Any other people want to share questions, comments?
I have one idea, which is just if we're creating sort of an online archive for this particular committee, we may want to link to the recording and the minutes from the session that Chief Carroll did for us back in, was it early June, maybe late May, following the sort of the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, when Chief Carroll, we had him come before the town board and discuss sort of police practices. And we did have pretty good community participation in that particular event. So that might be something that we could link to get sort of a deeper understanding of the community's questions and concerns and feedback on our policing.
Was that the one with the CRE, or was that a different?
It was prior to the start of the CRE.
I was asked to come in and discuss de-escalation and body cams, and then it led to a whole conversation.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
So I guess I can ask, just while we have time, is there any particular reason, is there anything that stood out in all the people, we have 23 attendees who decided to come today, knowing that this was going to be an opportunity to be heard? Is there anything that piqued anyone's interest? Is there anything that, in terms of, even if it's a general subject area of concern or an idea, it doesn't have to be specific, but we have 23 people here and we're grateful you're here. Is there anything that, what was a catalyst, if you will, to come along tonight? If anyone would like to share that, that would be helpful. And Jackie O'Brien, you're up again. You're a go-to, Jackie. So Carrie, if you can pull Jackie back in, you get a golden star.
Thanks, and I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
My family, we've been very concerned about what seems to be a dichotomy, that you're either pro-police or you are something else. And that has burned very deeply for our younger generation. I think this sense that there isn't this common shared interest in doing the right thing, that there has to be this you have to be on one side or the other. It's very, very troubling. So I thought this would be a good gateway for our family to understand some of what is the rift that is so, divisive, that allows this idea of one or the other. Thank you.
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know if you're asking us to answer that, and certainly we all probably have different views, but it is an issue with many things in terms of you're either for or against. If you don't support 100%, you're not on our team. But there certainly should be, if there isn't, which there unfortunately in many cases is not, that sort of nexus tied together. It's not one or the other. It can be both. But I don't know how that necessarily gets worked into this. How we examine that from the police side in terms of maybe it's a communication issue, maybe it's an education issue. I don't have that exact answer, but it's certainly an issue, and that stands out. I agree. Anybody else have any reason they want to share why they came tonight, and any ideas, anything that was burning, even whether it was burning hot or not so much?
And the chat box is available if you're uncomfortable raising your hand.
We can make this like a law school class. I can just call on you and make you answer. All right. Again, Terry McLeany Stern, please. Carrie, if you can move her in.
Unmute. There we go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Thank you.
No, I just was curious to see. I think maybe others share this too. It's just very disturbing to see other police actions around the country, around demonstrations and things. And so I wanted the community to know that we're all concerned. But like everyone else, our police department has been pretty stellar. And so it's, I'm glad that you're doing this. And even though it's state mandated, it's still a worthy thing to do. That's all.
I agree. Any dialogue is a healthy dialogue. 100%. It's a great point. Thank you.
I would like to add that I want to thank all the participants who have agreed to be stakeholders in this for being stakeholders and joining and sharing. And I do look forward to the eyes on the PD and looking for ways to make us better.
Oh, sorry, pardon me. Will we HW? I don't know what that question is in the chat. Josie Ganick. Again, anyone else want to share anything? Nicole Ritchie, please, Carrie.
Sure, Nicole, just unmute yourself.
Sorry, so it's Nicole Richey. I'm not the Nicole Ritchie. There's an accent.
My apology.
The accent on the E never shows up. So I had an opportunity to speak with Chief Carroll back, I guess it was last winter during the Holocaust Memorial dedication. And so I explained to him that I've been living here since 1949. And so he asked me if I don't remember exactly the words he used, but did I have any complaints or, and I thought, and he said, well, I guess that's a good sign. So my question, and I don't want to, be too specific about it, but it kind of piggybacks on an email, I think, Ivy, that you read. Somebody asked about how reports are processed. So my question had to do with the fact that in my neighborhood last week, every Black Lives Matter sign was removed during the night. And two of us in the neighborhood called the police, and they came and they took reports. But I was just wondering what happens to those reports and what happens to a situation like that when an entire neighborhood, and there were campaigns, all the campaign signs of a certain party were also stolen, or removed. But what happens in a situation like that when you have an entire neighborhood that has a number of these Black Lives Matter signs up and they all disappear? And when the police officer came, was only interested in my report, but not in what had happened in the neighborhood. So that was a concern of mine.
All right, council's going to beat me up because they said to just keep this as a listening session, but I see that's not going to happen. An officer is sent to investigate a complaint. He interviews you or other victims. Depending on the circumstances, he'll canvass and talk to your neighbors. He'll come back, he'll prepare a report, be reviewed by detectives. We'll see if there's any other information we can come up with, and hopefully we can develop leads and possibly lead to an arrest. I can tell you this, we've had signs taken of every kind and all over the town. And we are very proud that we did make an arrest on a Black Lives Matter sign a couple months ago. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the other day there was some political signs taken from somebody's property, and they were very upset because it was a yellow highway vehicle, they thought, and we tracked it down. It was state DOT that were removing signs that were on their property. There was a question as to was a property of the owner or the state. So the state has a policy from doing it. So we take everything serious, from the most minor incident to the greatest. Not everything is solvable, unfortunately, and but I would say we're. And if we do know an area or specific areas being targeted, we do put extra patrols out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think, Nicole, from 1949, you now take the lead over 1968. So I think you're the one.
I mean, do you want to read those other questions quick? Do you mind?
Sorry, the email that we got?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I just have to search for it again.
Don't tell Jacqueline or Nick on me, right?
Okay, there were three questions. One was, what's the process for police report completion? The second was the protocol for door knocks. And the third was the protocol for call-in processing.
Okay. Once somebody makes a police report, the officer takes all the investigation. He completes the report and he forwards it to a supervisor for review. If the supervisor thinks everything's acceptable, he'll approve it. If he doesn't, he'll send it back again for the officer to make corrections. It's kind of after we want them done as soon as possible, but we tell the public not to expect them to be ready for the release until 5 business days, and that just gives us a chance for review. On top of that, my patrol lieutenant does review every report approved by the sergeants, so it's almost a double review process. The door knock, do we think we were talking about a no knock list? I'm not sure what they're asking. But people can sign up for a no knock list, which is provided to the department, and we're given to solicitors, and they're not supposed to go to those homes to solicit. And as for the last one, Ivy, I'm sorry, could you read? You're on mute. Nothing.
Sorry, just realized that. The last question was, what is the protocol for call-in processing?
I need more information to answer that.
Sorry, that's all I got. That's all that was in the email.
Great.
A question we have from Josie Ganick. Will the committee try to learn what we as a community can do or change to make it easier for the police department to do its job?
Good question.
So again, I'll reread that. Will the committee try to learn what we as a community can do or change to make it easier for the police department to do its job? And that is a fair and good question. I think that can be part of this process, because if we're going to address and deal with the police department internally and how to make it work and how to make it safer and how to make our strategies the right one for this community. It's not one or the other, kind of what we said before. Those are linked together, in my opinion, at least.
It goes back to community policing.
So thank you for that question. Anyone else want to share, type, raise their hand? Anything anyone on the committee just wants to add that they were shortchanged before? There'll be ample opportunity, so I don't want to put anyone on the spot again. I won't start calling out names. All right.
Well, I can't stop myself from talking, so I'll talk some more. So, I mean, I thought it was such an interesting point that Jackie raised earlier about, this dichotomy that has come up in the media and sort of the way that it's been portrayed as you can either be one way or you can be the other, right? So either you can support Black Lives Matter or you can support police officers. And, I think Jackie put it in such an interesting light to say, well, why can't you be both? Why do you have to be one or the other? And how do we help, especially young people in our community, come to understand that, you can hold both views simultaneously. And I just wanted to acknowledge, Hermie and Charles, who's on the call today, representing the Council on Race and Equity, but the work that the CRE did over the summer, where they, started this community booth at the farmers market, and then had the thought to include the Newcastle Police there with them at the booth. And so, you had a group that was, distributing Black Lives Matter signs, and you had our police officers there in the same booth with them. And I think it was just a really powerful message for our community about how, these two, you can hold these two views simultaneously, and we don't have to be one or the other, and we can, as a community, define for ourselves how that'll work. So, I'm really hoping that this process just kind of continues us down that path that the CRE and the Newcastle Police Department started on over the summer.
I mean, can I say, like, to follow up on what you said, Ivy, is it the purview of this community, I mean, not community, but this committee, to actually explore that question, to say, what is it about the policing structure, the community structure, generations, perspectives that creates that, and what might be a pathway forward so that people feel that being critical of something is not, tantamount to like destroying everything if you just are critical about something? Is that something that the committee could address?
I see no reason why we couldn't. I believe that's a critical piece. I mean, that is at least what you're seeing politically and outside. That's a real big issue. It's not just this community, but it's certainly here too, that it's almost blinders on. Either you support X or you support Y. Either support the police or you support Black Lives Matter in that particular scenario, and that doesn't have to be that way. And to effectively police, one would believe you have to break down that barrier to say that we're not foe because you're on one side or the other, that we can be united and share the same goals. So as Ivy just pointed out, the fact that the CRE was forward thinking enough, and the police department was forward thinking enough to say, let's just do this together and be out there together. That's something that goes to the heart of this. How do you do your community policing? Well, that's a great example how we can implement the strategy to make sure that people feel comfortable when a police officer approaches you, whether you're a person of color or you're not. So I think that is 100% is something that needs to be examined and should be. Again, we have Jackie O'Brien. So you're back in, Jackie.
This issue is, and I'm so glad that you guys feel comfortable addressing this, because I think there is nothing scarier for our teenagers and our children and our young adults than seeing that this is an unspeakable discussion, the Blue Lives Matter or the Black Lives Matter. And I think if the library could do symposiums on, Israeli and Hebrew, sort of Mideast relations and things that are less present. This is so critical and so present in our young children's minds, and that sense of tension that they are witnessing when they see signs for, back the blue or what have you. That's very, very confrontational for them beyond everything else that they're having to deal with. I think we have to try to deconstruct and dismantle some of these perspectives in a way that, in the same way we would do with other compelling political or international kinds of conflicts. So I appreciate your attention to that.
And I think, Jackie, to that point, eventually whoever grows up here, people move on and go to different communities and they have different experiences, and they whatever they learned here, they teach and share elsewhere. So, even asking these questions or even bringing it up, some people may wholeheartedly disagree with you. Some might, and a lot of do agree with you, but people should feel comfortable to engage in that conversation, because if they can't, it just festers and it gets ugly and nasty. So again, I think that's great that you bring it up. And I believe, as Vince sort of referenced before, this is a bigger part of what we should discuss in terms of our strategies in our community. So thank you very much. Carrie, if we can bring in Melissa Cintron, please.
Can you do that for me? How many five?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Good evening. This is actually Eric Cintron. Melissa. And I don't know if our camera's on, but I had a question and also a comment too. First of all, I just wanted to mention that I've been in this community for about a dozen years, and in general, I've not had any negative experiences with the police department. I have family members that are police. My brother-in-law gave his life at 9/11. He's a Nassau County cop, so I always tend to look favorably on the police force. I'm also a person of color, and I see both sides and some of the challenges that police have with relationships with people of color. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was that it's been a couple of cases where I've had to call the police regarding some noise in my neighborhood or things that didn't look right. And my first experience was not negative, but I was a little taken back by the fact that the officer, after my complaint, asked for my date of birth. I gave it, but
demographic information.
But a lot of information that they were asking from me that kind of made me feel a little uncomfortable. Like, I'm here calling about things that I saw was suspicious, but I kind of felt like I was being interrogated. And as I thought about it, I started to understand maybe why I felt that way. Is because, as I mentioned, as a person of color and not growing up in Chappaqua, I grew up in the city, in New York City, the relationship was not always the best with police. So as this community expands and grows and has more diversity, I think it's something that the department should consider. I'm not sure what the exact protocol is when a person does call a complaint in, and do they have to give, their date of birth and all this information, because some folks will feel uncomfortable, particularly people of color.
It's just understand that when we lodge complaints and we're asked a lot of demographic information, I've had to respond. And Chief Carroll, I think this predates you because we've been in the community for a while, but I had to take the phone from my husband and ask, why do you need all of this information? And the officers have historically backed down. We are law-abiding citizens, good community members of Chappaqua, but it's just something in terms of sensitivity that when you deal with BIPOC that you got to be very aware of. That, unfortunately, I mean, my husband and I have spent countless hours talking about our experiences with the police in Newcastle, which have generally been very favorable. I commend you for developing what's been obviously a more diverse police force. We have seen it since we've been here, and we very much appreciate it. I want you to know how important that is, because I think it needs to be across the board. I think it needs to be in our school district as well. I had to step up to one of your African-American officers the other day as a car almost hit me and my younger child walking down on South Greeley Avenue, and had a conversation with him. He was absolutely phenomenal. I can't tell you how much it's meant to my family and me personally raising my daughters here to have friendly faces in the community, to look at their law enforcement and see people that they respect and that they identify with. And I commend you for that. And, we look forward to, we understand that this is a state obligation, a state requirement, but we look forward to seeing the development of a program that would make this community feel more inclusive for BIPOC. And I thank you. Thank you. That's my younger child, by the way. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. Those are valid points that probably other people who are not in the BIPOC community wouldn't necessarily understand and appreciate. Somebody asked me for my information, I would give it without any second thought in terms of law enforcement, but I can understand why. And there's likely reasons why, and Chief can explain at a different time or now, why you need that information in certain cases, like date of birth or contact information, as an investigation goes on, to make sure that you can be found and they can communicate with you, whatever it may be. But nonetheless, it's a real issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I can say that I've heard that that question's come up recently a few times, but it always has been our standard operating procedure to ask everybody for the name, date of birth, middle initial, address, cell phone. And it's more just for information gathering for us, so we can differentiate who he is. John Smith, how many John Smiths could there be? The DOB helps, differentiate that. I tell a story. I think Hermie actually heard me say it before. When I'd go to an alarm as a rookie officer, I'd show up at a house and I was pretty sure that the person there was the owner, but I'd always ask for identification anyway, just to prove it in case it was like, I don't know, elaborate ruse. So it's just something that we've always done. I certainly appreciate your concern. It's come up a few times, so it's something we'll be talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our favorite participant back in the saddle, Jackie O'Brien again.
Actually, I didn't raise my hand. I'm so sorry. It must have been up. I apologize.
Oh, please, by all means. All right. Anyone else? We went on a roll there. I think we certainly have addressed some important issues, at least started to scratch the surface. I'm sure there'll be many more to come. Let me rephrase that. There absolutely will be many more to come. Even if there's any observations anyone's had in town, whether it's a personal experience or anything they've observed, so, again, I didn't want to end it too early, but if there's nothing else to share, we can keep it open for another couple minutes, see when it peaks their head in. But if there's nothing else to share, and the panelists, really, this was not meant for us to, not that we don't want to, but it wasn't meant for us to go back and forth at this stage in the process. I don't need to make everyone sit and watch, look at each other. So if there's no other comments, no other thoughts, anything anyone wants to share, my suggestion is that we adjourn this for now. There will be ample opportunities going forward. And I encourage, if you didn't want to say anything publicly because you're just not comfortable doing so, we have that email. Please, please, please email us. There's no bad question, bad observation, or bad comment. The whole purpose of this is to fix if something is broken, or just address something even if it isn't. So with that said, I think we can call it a night. No objections? No objections. All right.
Is there any way we could talk real quick, a plan for next week outside of the attendees?
Carrie, can we close off the meeting and then discuss internally the plan?
Yes. Hold on one second. I will stop the recording.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate